US tech stocks have continued their advance, led by big computer chips overnight. We've seen ARM, advanced micro devices, as well as NVIDIA all surge. And we've also seen the Magnificent Seven shine, rising 1.7% overnight, while NVIDIA has once again become the second biggest company in the world. Just outstanding stuff, but more upside is probably ahead. My name is Jessica Amir, a market strategist here with Mumu. It's great to have your company for the daily on this 15th day of May. So after the recent surge in big tech companies that make up the NASDAQ 100 index, they've now amassed a combined market value of $26.4 trillion US dollars. Now that's pretty big. To put it into context, it's more than what most countries are making in income, known as gross domestic product or GDP. In fact, that combined $26.4 trillion market value of the NASDAQ 100 companies is more than what China is making in income. That's pretty extraordinary. And basically this reflects the NASDAQ 100 companies' profits, how much profits they're expected to have in the future, and it also reflects their global influence as well as the massive investments that they've been receiving. Indeed, the recent billions of dollars of investment that is expected to come into the NASDAQ 100 from the Middle East. Now, taking a big step back now, we need to think about what the investment world is doing. It seems like the investment world and investors alike are now throwing basically everything that they have at chips, believing that this story is far from over. So we've seen the semiconductor ETF, one of the world's biggest semiconductor ETFs, by the ticker code SMH. This is now roared up 42% from its low. Now, to fuel more buying into this, it seems that we're seeing investors really sell out of defensives globally. So they're selling out of those things that have done really well in uncertain times, such as healthcare and staples. Now, this is why we're basically seeing the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones be pressured. They're both appearing that they're, I guess you could say, overbought and maybe due for a pullback, while investors are meanwhile looking to take money out of the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones and out of those defensive plays and move them into semiconductor ETFs, such as the one we're displaying on the screen. It's also worthwhile pointing out that overnight we saw NVIDIA, AMD, Cisco, and Amazon all gain fresh new legs overnight. And indeed, as we said, NVIDIA has now once again become the world's second biggest company overnight. And that's because its shares rose 4.2%. It's now overtaken Apple, and NVIDIA has got a $3.3 trillion market valuation. I just want you to think about this. Now, we all know that earlier this year, Apple was the world's biggest company. And what got it there was the iPhone. But I just want you to think about the fact that really, the iPhone put Apple on the world map as the world's biggest company. I want you to think about something that we spoke about before, that NVIDIA could probably become the most valuable company on the planet thanks to its AI chips. Now, NVIDIA shares only need to rise 1.8%, and then NVIDIA will overtake Microsoft and become the world's biggest company. That will see it have a market valuation of about $3.4 trillion US dollars. Just extraordinary stuff. So I want you to think about this. And as we've spoken about, and indeed as we touched on in yesterday's daily, we are seeing Saudi Arabia pledge a lot of money into chip companies of late. So that's something that is gaining focus and should be on your radar. Down under, Aussie focus has shifted to the RBA and their expected rate cut next week. The futures earlier today were suggesting that the Aussie share market may stall at the open. I guess that's to be expected, given that we saw the Dow Jones take a step lower overnight. But it is worthwhile pointing out that we have seen the US dollar fall, but we have seen gold also stumble as well. Gold has now stumbled to a 5-week low, and this is probably going to act as a catalyst for some Aussie investors to perhaps sell out of gold stocks that have delivered some of the best returns on the ASX this year. Let's bring up a chart of Regis Resources. Now, Regis Resources is one of the best performing stocks in the ASX this year. It's up 70%, just an outstanding run. But Regis Resources is not the only gold stock that's seen a similar gain of this magnitude. We've also seen other gold stocks rise between 50 and 61%, such as Evolution Mining, West African Resources, Gold Road Resources, and Genesis Minerals. So what did you think about why we potentially might be seeing some profit taking in these names, given the world is really shoveling, it seems like, every dollar that they have into semiconductors and chips and going out of safe havens, including gold as well as other defensives, which we touched on. I think it's also worthwhile pointing out that investors will also be considering selling out of rare earth stocks such as Lynas, and that's because China overnight has suspended their curb of rare earth exports. Just another reason or another wake-up call that we're seeing a global trade war tension continue to die off. Last but not least, something else you need to keep on your radar is employment data today is out today. That's expected to validate that businesses are slowing their hiring. And basically, this will probably strengthen the RBA's case that they need to cut interest rates when they meet next week. And what is the market expecting the RBA to do next week? Well, there's 103% chance of the RBA cutting interest rates. That's if you go by the futures. So there's a likelihood that the RBA will cut interest rates by 0.25% next week. Now, regardless, I want you to think about this. CBA is expected to return to record profits this year. The market is expecting CBA profits to hit a record all-time high of 10.3 billion Aussie dollars, and that's regardless of what the RBA does next week, and that's something for you to consider. Thanks very much for your company. For information on the stocks and ETFs we've covered today, head over to Memri's platform.